Good morning, paragraph writers. This is Jennifer coming to you from Tanger this morning, where I am presenting at a conference. So as I warned you, I will not be in class today, but I am trying for the first time this online screencasting to deliver a YouTube lesson to you, and also I will attach the link to our PowerPoint for the week in hopes that it is just as if I am right there in Marrakesh teaching with you. So stick with me as I learn the technology, and let's get started. First, I'm going to minimize myself so we can maximize your learning. We are beginning with week number 7 in paragraph writing. And if you will recall, last week we talked lots about the body of a paragraph and also about coherence, adding linking words and connecting words to make smooth transitions between sentences within a paragraph. Last week we focused specifically on descriptive paragraphs. This week we are going to move on to writing narrative paragraphs. This makes a lot of sense because here in Tanger I am presenting a workshop on narrative writing and using social media in the classroom. So I'm going to share with you some of what I did here in Tanger this week. Just as a quick reminder, I have the definition of the narrative paragraph up on the screen. Remember, this is the kind of paragraph that tells a story. There's a clear beginning, middle, and end. And your story may be personal and told from the first person point of view, or you may be telling a story about someone else in a third person narrative style. Here's an example of a narrative paragraph. I am not going to read this aloud to you, so please just pause and take a minute to read this paragraph and note the beginning, the middle, and the end, and then go back to the beginning of the story and note the topic sentence. Think about all of the work that we have done with topic sentences and decide if this topic sentence hints at the type of paragraph, a narrative paragraph, so that you would have been able to guess it would be a narrative paragraph without even reading the paragraph. Here's another one. I am going to read this one aloud because we are going to do some work with this paragraph later in the lesson. Theo's day began with a shock. As soon as he arrived at the office that morning, he learned that his best friend was dead. Wasn't it just 12 hours ago that they were eating chicken wings and tipping back beer in front of a baseball game at the Cooper's Bar and Grill? After a long day of crunching numbers at the office, they stopped at a bar for a Thursday afternoon happy hour. They saw a few coworkers there, and before they knew it, it was closing time. Bill got in a car with someone he met just that evening, and that was the last time Theo saw him. Hopefully you noted in this paragraph that Theo's story has a clear beginning, middle, and end. And it is a quite tragic story, but it meets all of the guidelines for a narrative paragraph. As a quick reminder, let's look at some of those thanks to this timeforwriting.com website. Begin with a topic sentence that grabs the reader's attention. Let's look back at the paragraph. Theo's day began with a shock. As soon as he arrived at the office that morning, he learned that his best friend was dead. This is great. It's an example of an interesting hook. Theo's day began with a shock, which introduces some mystery and excitement to the paragraph. And then it continues with the topic sentence. As soon as he arrived at the office that morning, he learned that his best friend was dead. Just from these two sentences, the writer has piqued our interest and also has given us a glimpse into the type of paragraph that we are going to read. We know that this is going to be a story about the death of Theo's friend. So next up, our tips say to write events in the order in which they occurred and to use plenty of interesting details. If we look back at Theo's story, we understand that the paragraph actually begins the day after Bill's death, when Theo is learning about the events. But then we quickly come to understand that this is written in the style of a flashback. Theo flashes back, or the narrator flashes back, to the previous evening, starting at the beginning of the events which led to Bill's ultimate unfortunate death. We start at work, they go to a bar, they are probably celebrating with beer and chicken wings, lots of details. We know that Bill got into a car with a relative stranger, and then we know that Bill died. Finally, Theo is learning about this news for the first time when he returns to work. There is a clear sequence to the events in this narrative, which outline a beginning, a middle, and an end. The Time for Writing.com slides provide an example of another narrative paragraph. Please just scroll through these next 4 slides and learn from their perspective the breakdown of a strong narrative paragraph. After the topic sentence, you can see that the action begins. It continues. Notice that they're highlighting some of the transition words that make this into a strong and coherent paragraph. Finally, it concludes, and that word at the beginning, finally, hints to us, the reader, that the ending is coming. Note at the bottom, this narrative paragraph keeps everything in order, adds lots of detail, and then ends on a strong note. Today, you will not be responsible for ending on a strong note and writing a concluding sentence. Next week, we will begin focusing on the conclusion of strong paragraphs. So for today, your responsibility will still be a topic sentence, ideally with a fantastic hook, and then writing a strong body paragraph that follows the narrative format, which means having a clear beginning, middle, and end to the story that you're telling. So now here's where you get, a treat from Tanger. Here's a glimpse into what I've been doing here. And the teacher training I've been doing in a workshop on narrative writing. I've been talking to teachers about creative writing, more about writing short stories and fictional accounts of events. But what I realized through this presentation is that, in fact, you can use the same techniques to write a narrative paragraph. So let's take a look. I was talking with teachers about the idea of using Facebook in the classroom and helping students generate enthusiasm for writing narratives by making them realize that every day when they post on Facebook, they are essentially working towards a larger narrative about their day. And we talked about why use Facebook in Morocco, and everyone knows that it's fun, motivating, familiar, and honestly, it's a context that everyone here is familiar with. So we talked about status updates. These are really the meat of a story. You are summarizing in a quick status update the essential elements in what's going on in your life, and that's what we do in narrative paragraphs. So I asked teachers to take some paper and just work on a low-tech version of a status update and what they were doing here at the conference. And then gave them this example. This was me, preparing for a workshop at the ALC TEFL conference in Tanger. I was feeling excited. I was with my friend Wendy, who I tagged, and then our location was a conference center in Tanger. We talked more about what a status update has to do with narrative writing. Well, if you think about what narrative writing is, do you know? It's really anything that tells a story. And today we're talking about narrative paragraphs. Their intention is to tell a short story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you have studied fiction before, you probably have heard about the essential elements of a story. We talk about characters, the people or animals in your story, setting, where and when your story happens, plot, the action that moves your story forward, theme, which is the message that the author wants you to take away, and the point of view, who's telling the story and how is it told. Then we looked back at status updates again and identified the different parts. A photo or video that you include in your Facebook post, that's the setting where it's happening. Your actual status, the event that you're talking about, is the plot. You're telling us how things are moving forward. People that you choose to tag, they're characters, or sometimes they're the audience, people you want to read your post. How are you feeling? That emoticon. That's character development. It's telling me about your character. And finally, when you select a location to tag in your post, you're once again indicating the setting for your story. Each of the teachers then were assigned a character in a common story and tasked to either figure out the profile of their character, so give us some character development details, or to post 5 status updates that would essentially tell the story of their character. And then I provided them with this outline to remind them what you needed to include in a profile and what you needed to include in a status update in order for them to do this. You'll notice on the right-hand side of the screen that it says, tell your story. That's what we're doing in a narrative paragraph. And you see a plot diagram with a story mountain. This story mountain is really what we're talking about when we talk about the 5 essential steps in moving your plot forward. You have an exposition or a beginning, an event that carries the action forward, a climactic event at the top, which is the turning point in the story, a gradual start to fall, and then the resolution or the conclusion at the end of your story. So we try to be able to tell all stories in these 5 steps through a quick summary. So now let's go back to this sad story of Theo. Put yourself in Theo's shoes and imagine the Facebook posts that he might write if he were posting in real time about these events. I've done it for you. Look, just got in the office. Looking forward to another long day crunching numbers. Not. And then I hashtagged it for fun. Accounting nerd, geeks make good money, 9 to 5. If I were to include all of the Facebook accessories, I would use feeling bored, location, accounting firm, USA, New York, tagging it with the accounting department in my work friends, and the photo I choose is the coffee cup on my desk in front of the computer. The second event might be, woohoo, another day down, bring on Friday, hanging at Cooper's for wings and beers. If you're in the neighborhood, join us. Hashtag early start to the weekend, hashtag wings and beer, hashtag happy hour. Theo's feeling crazy. He gives us his location. He tags the same people, and his photo is of a beer on the bar at Cooper's. The next status update he posts, new friends, good times, heading home, hashtag bring on the weekend, hashtag Bill is crazy, hashtag be safe. Now Theo's feeling tired. His location is still the bar. He tags all of the same friends plus some new ones and includes a photo, a selfie in the taxi. Sorry, you can see I'm losing my voice from here. Next up, we've got TGIF, bring it on. That's thank God it's Friday. Hashtag work life, hashtag living for the weekend, hashtag one more day. Theo's feeling awesome. It's the next morning. His location is the city of New York subway. He's on his way to work. He's tagging his accounting department work friends again, and he takes a selfie. Now he's at the office. OMG, Bill, no. Hashtag RIP. There's a link to an article about Bill's death. Now Theo's feeling sad. His location is still his work site, and he tags his accounting friends again. So through these 5 status posts, Theo has essentially told the narrative story of Bill's death. 5 status posts, a definitely chopped up version of the story, but a clear outline of what needs to happen in the narrative paragraph. Now you could go through and write a narrative paragraph about Theo's night, Bill's death, and tell the whole story. But the author already did that for us. We did this backwards. We took the author's paragraph and we turned it into Facebook posts. Now it's your turn. You need to do this week. First, write a narrative paragraph from your personal point of view. Include a hook, a topic sentence, 5 sentences that move the action forward, and smooth transitions. It does not need a concluding sentence. Next, do the Facebook test. Rewrite the paragraph as a series of Facebook posts. I'll collect both next week.